Jeff Bush from the Washington Update in partnership with Eaton Vance, Harold Ford Jr., who is, of course, with Morgan Stanley, and Bob Reynolds from Putnam Investments. Gentlemen, if you come on up. Thank you very much. It's not getting any better. Granted, President Bush accounted for $5 trillion of the $15 trillion.
Right.
But the next $5 trillion came under President Obama.
No, absolutely. And I think that is a real issue for President Obama, is the economy. But the way I see the economy right now, I still see that as a flip of a coin issue for the American voter, specifically the independent voter. I don't think they've made a decision on who to blame for the current economic environment. I think there was a period of time where they were, independent voters were happy to blame President Bush. I think that transitioned to President Obama for a period of time. But where I see that issue getting some traction is sticking with the quote-unquote obstructionist Republican Congress. And if it ends up landing on the Congress's shoulders, then I actually think the economy will not be as big a negative for President Obama at the end of the day. But as it relates to the economy and the independent voter, I think it's going to boil down to literally how the average American feels about the economy at the end of September and early October. Where are gas prices? Where are jobless claims trending? Not necessarily dramatically moving one way or the other, but which way are they trending? And I think that will tell us more about that independent
difficulty
voter.
in the House being held by the Republicans, although that's an outlier that they lose it. And they could pick up the Senate. If
Right.
we saw single-party governance, I mean, first of all, do you think it's likely? And two, what do you think the implications are?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's likely. I still have the election, Andy and I have the election slightly in favor of President Obama. We believe that he has a clearer path to a re-election than Romney does at this point.
From an electoral map
From an
perspective?
electoral map perspective. So, so I'm going against one of our premises. But if the Republicans were to have a sweep, the real question is, do the Democrats still have a seat at the table? And I believe they'll still end up with a seat at the table. I think what we'll see is a narrowing of the margin of majority for the Republicans in the House. I think what we will see is a very, very close Senate. Perhaps a 52-48, a 51-49 Senate. And if that's the case, then the Democrats will still have an opportunity to help shape that agenda through this next term of the next president, regardless of who that president is. But I think there was a lesson learned. And I think the Democrats will teach the Republicans that lesson if they do take a sweep. I don't think they're going to I think they'll treat the Republicans the same way they feel they were treated during that 2-year period of 2008 and 2009, where the Republicans filibustered everything and so forth. So I think that will come back.
Why did they do that?
Here, remember this, though. It's important to remember, we were that close to getting a deal
As they were
around.
running the general up front, that they were ready and willing to embrace Simpson Bowles. They haven't done it yet either.
Well, it boiled down to that very first Republican debate in my mind, where they were all up there and they were asked, would you accept a deal with $10 of spending cuts, with $1 of revenue increases? If you watched all the candidates independently, 9 hands shot straight up, except Romney's. He hesitated. And I just have to believe, as a businessman, he was inside his head going, I would take that deal in a minute if I could get it. Yeah. And I agree with you, Harold, that the Republicans are really going to regret not stepping up to the plate and sticking with that deal last July. I don't think they're going to negotiate a better deal than President Obama was willing to give them at that point.
That's your opinion in front of us.
Well, I think the real challenge for this campaign is the candidates themselves theoretically don't control their entire message. Through the super PACs and everything else, those monies are going to be spent on those niche issues, which fairly and I think mostly unfairly, will be characterized to that candidate. So while I do believe President Obama, as well as candidate Romney, would like to run a big issue campaign, I think that noise from those side issues are going to drag them into a discussion whether they choose to or not.
$4 trillion over 10 years that is on the shelf, and arguably is a very good plan.
And what's interesting about it, though, it didn't carry a majority of vote from either party.
Right.
I mean, it was resoundingly dismissed by Congress, sadly, because I think it boils down to the promise that the Republicans made with Norquist about not raising taxes, but within Simpson-Bowles, there are tax revenue increases. And at the same time, there's entitlement changes, which the Democrats have taken the position that they will not vote for.
Jeff, do you want to say something?
Yeah, this is not a one side of the balance sheet equation,
right?
And a solution that we have to find, and that's where I'm supportive of the Simpson-Bowles, and I think it makes all the sense in the world and brings us much closer. Now we can argue, and certainly will in Washington, about how to apply those cuts and where to apply those cuts, but the fact that they have to happen, the tax increases have to happen through a tax reform process of simplification and broadening the number of people paying in is, I think, absolutely right in line with what the direction we need to go.
Materially change between now and the elections?
Well, certainly our opinion, we have a bent that tax rates are going up on the high income individuals, high net worth individuals. I don't see how we get away from that, no matter how we parse this whole program out. So if that's the case, yeah, I think you need to be looking at those clients again with those concentrated stock positions, take advantage of this 15% capital gains rates that we have. I think gifting right now with the rather generous $5 million state tax exemption, relatively low 35% of state tax bracket, I think that's a no-brainer. And the great thing about that one, if we're wrong and state taxes stay where, or limits stay where they are, the worst thing that happens is your clients get that money outside the taxable estate, and that's one more year of appreciation that's outside that taxable estate. And more importantly for you is that it's the first opportunity for you to engage in a business relationship with that next generation. And I think for continuity of assets and of your book of business, that's the real opportunity I see right now.
Gentlemen, thank you. Jeff Bush, Bob Reynolds,
Thank you.
Harold Ford.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it very much.